Moving away from DraftSight, we're going to go right back into SolidWorks, which is a three-dimensional interface. And through the assignment, the first 15 or 16 pages are a tutorial on how to do things step by step and an introduction to the skills we're going to teach you. Instead of using that, if you prefer, we're going to use a video, and we're going to show you how to go through that same process through a demonstration. So let's move over to the SolidWorks workspace. So obviously when you open up and you click on New Part, you're going to have a few options and a grade workspace. So I'll keep this off to the left here so we can see what to do. So obviously there's really not much we can do. We have a Features and a Sketch tab. And we also have different planes that we can work off. This is a really good thing to use to figure out where to start. So looking at our overall dimensions, we have a width of 5, a height of 4, and a depth of 5. So let's work off of our front plane and try to accomplish making something. So we're going to use Extruded Boss Base. You'll immediately see 3 options come up. So we're going to choose the front plane. And then you'll have a workspace to draw. In fact, you'll see that it immediately goes from Features to Sketch. So what we're going to ask you to do is go ahead and click on a corner rectangle. We're going to go here to the origin, just like in DraftSight, and we're going to click and drag. Now you can see some numbers coming out as you're dragging, and I am not looking for a specific 5x4 rectangle, just any rectangle. Click. Go ahead and pause the video and give that a try. Now the next thing we have to do is define how big this rectangle is. And let's first start making the perimeter. So we know it's a width of 5, so you're going to click on Smart Dimension. And by clicking on Smart Dimension, all you have to do is click on the line segment, drag this out. And at that point, a Modify box pops up, and we're going to define that as 5 inches. Now we're going to do the same thing and click on this line segment, drag that out, and we're going to define that as 4 inches. Okay, so now we have a 2-dimensional front drawing. The next thing we're going to do is extrude it to be 5 inches in depth. So let's go ahead and click Exit Sketch. And as soon as you do that, you'll notice that your sketch goes into a 3-dimensional mode. And that's what we want. So you have some options here. The first option, let's change the direction to go backwards. So let's go ahead and click on Direction 1. Then the next option is D1. Well, that stands for distance. And let's define that as 5 inches, just like the drawing is asking. And as soon as you're done, you'll see this appear and click the check mark. Okay, just like DraftSight, you can zoom. If you click on the roller button and move your mouse, you could change the orientation of the shape. Okay, but if you want to get back to our isometric view, that is in the View Manager. You'll have a window box that comes out, or you could tell it, go back to your isometric view, your top view, your front view, your right side, whichever. Let's go back to our isometric view. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut some circles through here, and these are called extruded cuts. Now the same thing is going to happen anytime you use a feature. Once you choose a feature, it's going to ask you which plane you want to go off of. So in this case, we'll start here with this 1.5" diameter circle drilled through. We're going to tell it we want to do an extruded cut. Which plane do we want to use? Well, we want to use the top plane. So I'm going to click on this face right here. Now it's up to you. You could either go into your View Manager to your top view, which makes it sometimes easier, and we're just going to draw a circle. Now watch what happens when I hover near the middle of this line segment. It finds the middle, and it brings a dotted line out to say, hey, you're in the middle of that line segment. But I don't really know how far out I'm going to go. I'm just going to click here and drag a circle. Now just like before, we have to give it 1, 2, 3 dimensions. So we're going to click Smart Dimension. We're going to click on this circle and drag this out. And we'll define this as 1.5 because that is the diameter. Now we need a Y location. So I'm going to click on this segment and this center point and drag this out. It actually doesn't matter where I drag it. We're going to define that as 1.5 as well. Now our final dimension most likely is going to be set for us because it found the midpoint, but we're going to define it anyway. 2.5, that's our number with the check mark. Now, once we exit Sketch, you'll see this change color, and we don't go into the 3D view. So let's try to do that. Let's go into our view orientation, back to isometric, and it shows that it's going to cut through. Now up here, instead of direction, where it says blind, what you're going to do is click this down arrow and click through all. And that's complete. Now let's try this again. For the front circle, extruded cut, which plane? The front plane. Let's go into the front view. And from here what we'll do, same thing. We'll draw a circle. I'm not going to find the midpoint of the line because I don't believe it is in the middle. I'm just going to pick a random spot here, click and drag a circle, and we have 1, 2, 3 dimensions. Smart dimension. We'll define that as 1 because it's a 1-inch diameter. Our Y location, I'm clicking on the line segment, center point. Let's try that again. Sometimes if this happens, you could turn off Smart Dimension and it will go back into here. So that dimension is 1.5. And finally our height dimension, line segment, center point, and that's 2.5. Okay, now once we're there, we're going to exit Sketch, go back into your isometric view, and you're going to tell it, again, clicking this down arrow, through all. Okay, the last thing we need to do is cut this notch out. Again, that's an extruded cut. Now we could either go from the top view or the front view. I usually go from the front view. I'm going to click on the front plane. And in this case, I'm going to stay here in the isometric view, and I'm just going to click and drag a rectangle. I'm not drawing lines. And the same thing, I have to define it. So let's make sure we have our numbers. It's 2 inches in height from the bottom, and it's 2 inches wide. So let's go back in and define that. Smart dimension, I'm going to click on this point and this point. Define that as 2. And I'm going to click on this segment right here because I know the width is 2. Define that as 2. And as soon as I'm done, exit Sketch and highlight through all. Okay, once you're done, make sure you go up to File, Save As, and save it as Part 1.